First of all, I want to welcome you to Bruton Parish Church. It's a pleasure to have you here, sort of. It was not exactly part of the plan, but we're making this all work. A big thank you to Hungers Parish and Galilee for their preparations to support one of the walkabouts, but recognizing the fact that we had to shift away. So apologies for that. I manage lots of things, but hurricanes are not one of them. So, want to single out members of the Transition Committee. Would you please stand? Mr. Dosh Jackson, Ann Stiles, Cleo, Ann Dale, Les Ferguson, and Linda Rogers. And we don't have Jenny with us. Someone say her last name for me. I always blow it. Distancilao. Yes, and that wasn't right, was it? I can't do it. I know and love her and can't get her name quite right. There are a couple of people that couldn't be with us, Sabrina Miles and Alice Webley, even though they've been very important members of the Transition Committee. A special thank you to the diocesan staff that's done an amazing job supporting this effort and really spent some time with us and the candidates. Gosh, how many days ago was that now? 2 days ago? It seems like a week ago. There's been a lot going on and lots of great stuff. Also, thank you to the search committee for the great work that you did and presenting us with a wonderful slate of candidates. We are very, very grateful. A couple of reminders. September 21st is the special election at Dinwiddie High School, in all places. Dinwiddie. Registration begins at 9 o'clock, and then the consecration will be February 1st at St. Bede's Roman Catholic Church here in Williamsburg. They have been gracious. The Monsignor's been very kind to open the space so that we might have a sacred space for the consecration, and they've been very supportive of this whole effort. At this point, I would like to introduce the candidates and their spouses. The Reverend Harold Cobb and his wife Sheila. Why don't you stand? Thank you very much. Yes. Derek Harbin and his wife Clifford King Harbin. Father John Harmon and his wife Kiva. Mother Susan Haynes and her husband, Father Thomas Haynes. Canon Victoria Hurd and her husband, Dave Wrigley. Sven Van Bars and his spouse, the Reverend Jen Kimball. All right, at this point on our agenda, what we propose to do is to offer each of the candidates 3 minutes each. So very careful. Lauren, Jan, you're going to keep time, and Jan cracks a mean whip. Caution, follow carefully. And the question is, what do you think will be your favorite part of being a bishop, and what will be your least favorite part? And we're going to go in order. There is a method to this madness, but we will begin with John Harmon.
Good evening. I offer myself to you out of a deep and abiding love for Jesus Christ. I believe that beyond the obvious role of pastoring and teaching, I will enjoy building relationship with clergy and key leaders in the diocese. I also will enjoy working with young people, young adults, and youth in the diocese. The least favorite part of this role that I think I would not enjoy very much would be the work around closing churches and dealing with issues of discipline with clergy. Those two, I think, will make me, they ought to be done at times, but I think I will not enjoy them as much as I will enjoy building relationships and helping churches to grow and become healthy and create sustainable relationships that can thrive in places. Am I doing good? Good.
You've got another 2 minutes.
Oh, wonderful. The other, I will enjoy very much creating partnerships with congregation. By that, I mean engaging them into visioning processes where we might see what is possible, but not obviously possible. And these partnerships will enable churches to see themselves as growing with the diocese, but also to allow the bishop to understand what it is that the churches are in need of. I believe that when clergy find themselves supported by their bishop, they take necessary risks. So I will enjoy being with clergy. The other, I think that creating new opportunities for growth in ministry, new initiative will be something I will enjoy. I like to call these mission posts and a place where you may create floating churches. We were blessed recently to dedicate a congregation that we nested in our parish, All Saints. And this is something people frown on, but there was a community that was hungry for a kind of worship. So we brought them in, and they have grown to be an independent place. Their average attendance is as much as ours now. Some of our members have joined them. So we're blessed to dedicate that. So I want to see the possibility of growing new congregations or new communities. They may not necessarily be churches, but communities where folks may worship and engage the world by extending the possibility of the gospel to transform lives. How much time do I have?
12 seconds.
Oh. I want to see the church grow. I will enjoy that very much. Thank you.
Father Cobb. Sorry, Derek, I didn't mean to give you a false signal there.
Thank you. Delighted to be with you here at Bruton Parish, a great historic parish in this diocese, in this nation. I think my thrills come when I see people grow, not only the ordained, but also lay people, to see them grow in their relationship with Christ and with each other. And then when that happens, congregations grow. And so when congregations are growing, it is because they are healthy, and we are replicating ourselves. Someone has said a success without a successor is a failure. And so we need to be reproducing ourselves and replicating ourselves, and the same with our institutions. I think the most difficult part of being a bishop is conflict. And conflict is in churches, and bishops take varying approaches on conflict. Some bishops have the notion of just letting it ride out. Other bishops get involved, and I would be a bishop that would get involved, because I think one of the key things and Christian witnesses is reconciliation. We're so quick in this world and society to give up and give out, but often what we need to really do is get individuals back together and say, where do we have common ground? Where can we build relationships on what we have? Because we have much more in common than we do apart. And I think that that is what builds a diocese, to have a never quit, never give up, never walk away, never throw up your hands attitude, but have an attitude that you share, that with God all things are possible. Thank you.
Now, Derek, it's you.
Good evening. Our first child was born in a traditional hospital and delivered by a doctor. The protocols in that hospital were clearly defined. And the staff of those hospitals followed those procedures, dictating everything that Clifford would do in her labor and delivery, as well as my role, or lack thereof, all the way along the way. We have fantastic memories of Miles's birth, but our hospital experience, which was very top-down, with very little input from us, was not something that we wanted to repeat. So with the birth of Mitchell and Claire, we opted to work with certified nurse midwives. Now, these medical professionals work very differently. They first recognize that pregnancy is not an illness. They listened to Clifford, and they actually watched her body for signals as to how to help her labor more effectively and efficiently. They cared for our unborn children so that they arrived safely. And my role got expanded beyond just a coach to be a full participant in the labor process, actually being able to catch our children and to cut the umbilical cords. My favorite role as bishop would be as midwife, mentor, and servant for what Jesus Christ wants to birth in our diocese, in each of our congregations, and in each of you. As midwife, mentor, and servant, I would draw on all my training in congregational development and church planting, 2 decades of teaching seminarians and lay people, as well as clergy earning their doctoral degrees, and 30 years of ministering in congregations of all different sizes. You and your congregation serve on the missionary frontier of our diocese, listening to you, working with you, playing with you, laughing with you, crying with you, collaborating with you, and assisting you as you reach out in the name of Jesus Christ to love and bless and serve the neighborhoods where you are, is where I would find my greatest joy and passion and delight. And to my sister and brother clergy, let me say, to the extent that it would be helpful, I would delight in being part of your lives and the lives of your families, because I know how hard and difficult this work can be sometimes. And least favorite, clergy discipline, Title IV.
Derek, time.
Thank you.
Mother Haynes.
Good evening. I would like to start by saying that I'm disappointed that we did not get to go to the Eastern Shore or to Virginia Beach. So I would like to greet you all who are watching via live stream or perhaps later via the recording. But if anyone made the journey here tonight from those areas, could you show me by just raising your hands? I want to thank you for your dedication to the church. That shows me your level of commitment, and it is inspiring. So when I was made a candidate in this process, I took some time to visit, if it existed, the website or the Facebook page of every congregation in this diocese, just so that I could see your building, know who your clergy and your leaders are. And I read the bios of clergy if they were available, and I have to say that my favorite role as bishop, as the chief pastor of the diocese, would be to connect and collaborate with the clergy of this diocese. There is an enormous amount of brain power here in the education that you have attained, an enormous amount of spiritual wisdom. So I would be interested to know what's going on inside those heads, and hopefully to benefit from that as we collaboratively seek a vision for this diocese. I also would enjoy getting to know the lay people of this diocese and hearing how God is operating in your life and seeing those connections. I've been studying the map of Southern Virginia and seeing all those dots on the map and trying to think of ways that we can connect them. every parish is important, and every parish has a gift, and part of my job as bishop would be to help hear what those gifts are and then offer them to the diocese. My least favorite part, it's not clergy discipline. I actually love clergy discipline. My least favorite part about being a bishop, I think, would be that I would miss the rootedness of worshiping in the same community week after week after week, and I would have to understand my community as being much larger than I've been used to having it be. I would also, I think, be somewhat afraid of managing my calendar and being afraid that I would not have enough time to do all the things that are important. But here's the number one thing that I'm afraid of. It's a liturgical thing, actually. I have heard that, the number of times a bishop has to put the mitre on and off his or her head during a worship service, that one can develop a terrible case of hat hair. So anyone who serves as my chaplain will have to be a licensed cosmetologist and carry an assortment of hair care products, and then we will all be fine. Thank you very much.
Canon Hurt.
I dare say that I disagree slightly with my dear sister Susan. I don't think you need to wear a mitre in the Diocese of Southern Virginia too often. And I will wear one if it is required, but there it is. I too am sorry we did not get to the Eastern Shore and down to Virginia Beach and that part of the diocese. My favorite thing is supporting clergy and lay leaders in good ministry and blessing that which is working well and naming those things that are still just coming up as tendrils from the life of a parish, because it's so easy at an early age for something to get squelched, and it is, I think, the job of a bishop to bless and encourage and call out the best in a diocese. So that would be something I would particularly like doing. I would also very much like being having spent a great deal of time in urban areas, but having rural roots. I grew up in the Piedmont of Virginia. I'd like to be back among the small parishes. The first two parishes I ever started were in rural and developing Virginia, and one was reopening a old church, which is still open. I would enjoy starting new churches and encouraging other people to start new ministries. Energy comes when a diocese starts going, we can do this. I would enjoy being in Virginia because of the roots of this diocese. It has deep roots, and the history and the commitment that we stand on like small people on the shoulder of giants is something that I would enjoy, pointing to those roots, and at the same time pointing that we are called to spread our wings in a new culture, a post-Christian culture, and we have to figure out how those roots strengthen us and do not hold us back. You can't cut yourself off from the roots, and you can't not spread your wings. Least favorite. Again, I have to disagree with my dear sister because I've done clergy discipline. I've had that phone call. You have 30 seconds to call the bishop, or I will, and I will bring charges against you. That's not a fun thing to do. It's not. Nor is it a fun thing to do to go into a parish where there is entrenched conflict. And I wouldn't close churches because I've done that.
All right. Sven.
Well, I am a second career priest. And for years, I heard the call. I was in graduate school 20-some years ago, and out of the blue, the Spirit put into my mouth that I'm going to go to seminary in 3 years. It took 27 years for actually me to go do so because I had a great career and life happened. And all those years living in small churches, serving in small ministries as a layperson, I kept on getting called to new things, discerning, listening. And so it's probably natural then that what I'm going to enjoy the most is being in that discernment with lay people, with ordained people, as they listen to and get formed into the ministries they're called to do. And it just doesn't go beyond the person, it goes well beyond the person to the whole congregation. And so how does a congregation listen to where they're going, wrestling with the creative impulse that's there, asking them to be the people of God, the church of God? I tell people that I am genetically Dutch and Scotch. And so I am the cheapest, most frugal person you're probably going to meet. But in that, I've often found that that's where the fun is, of trying to figure out how do we do things when we don't have the money, because the reality is we never have the money. And as a fundraiser, I asked for a whole lot of money, raised a whole lot of money, and yet we never had enough. So the fun part, the joyous part would be saying, how do we creatively listen to our Creator, do what we're called to do as individuals, as communities, to go out and spread love and hope and joy and bear witness to our Savior. I am a Title IV officer in the Diocese of Virginia. I have been on those phone calls where someone calls. I've been in those conference calls where we're in discussion, debating things. That would be my least favorite part. I know the importance of it. I know the need of it. And it fits in with that discerning who God calls us to be. But it isn't something I would look forward to very often. A minute. A whole minute. I have this theory, and I've tried it for years. I've had this theory that you can never fill a congregation with joy. Because the moment you start filling a congregation with joy, others come along because it's magnetic, it's attractive. And therefore, the cup gets bigger. And so therefore, you have to put more joy in there. And so the challenge would be, as we try to proclaim gospel in this place, of how do we fill ourselves with joy, how do we fill the congregations with joy, so that people who are hungry for the message of resurrection, hungry for the hope, begin coming repeatedly into our congregations and seeing the good news that we have to spread as Episcopalians. Thank you.
I should have mentioned that we are being recorded and that this is being webcast. It reminds me of the Best Johnny Cash album, Live at Folsom Prison, where he reminds the crowd that it's being recorded and they need to be on their best behavior. So consider that a reminder to you as well. And go listen to Live at Folsom Prison. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. There is a method to this madness, and we talked about how to structure these events so that you would be able to spend some personal time with the candidates and yet make sure that everyone has the time for exposure. Tricky, I wanted to do a town hall debate format, but was overruled. I thought that would have been a lot of fun. You can tell my friends think that would have been a lot of fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to break up you into small groups. You will go to rooms and the candidates will rotate through the rooms. Each candidate will have their opportunity in this room for the Q&A so that it can be recorded and part of the webcast. So what I'm going to ask us to do is to keep a few things in mind. Let's be respectful of the candidates and let's be collegial and engage in being supportive of one another to find out who we are. And that's mostly done in a compassionate kind of a dialogue. You can't ask the spouse of the candidate any questions. And you will have shepherds in the room that will stop you if you try to do so. And if they can't stop you, they're going to find me. And Lauren can tell you I'm pretty good at stopping things from happening. So if we can have the candidates stand over here and the Bruton clergy stand over here. Trust me here, this is good. And the spouses, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear about that. All right. Now this is hearkening back to elementary school here, my friends. So what we're going to do is we're going to start counting off.